I was walking home from school when my mom texted we had 10 minutes before they found us. I was 2 blocks from our apartment, headphones in, thinking about the chemistry test I'd just bombed, when my phone buzzed. The text from mom was all lowercase, no punctuation, sent at 3:14 p.m. on a Wednesday in October. Pack a bag right now. We have 10 minutes before they find us. Take only what you can carry. Meet me at the storage unit on Maple. Don't tell anyone. Don't go home. I stopped walking in the middle of the sidewalk and read it 3 times. My hands went cold. Mom never texted like that. She was meticulous about grammar, always used capital letters, always signed her text with a heart emoji. This looked like someone else had sent it from her phone. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring and her voice was shaking. Kira, listen to me very carefully. Your father knows. I don't know how, but he knows everything and he's coming for us. You have 10 minutes, maybe less. Go to the storage unit right now. I'm already there. I have our bags packed. We're leaving and we're never coming back. Then she hung up. I stood there on the sidewalk with my phone in my hand while people walked past me and cars drove by and the world kept moving like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Because my father was Captain Daniel Frost of the Metro Police Department. And if my mom was running from him, something was very, very wrong. I'd lived my entire 15 years in the same apartment in the same neighborhood in the same city. My parents had been married for 17 years. My dad was a decorated police officer with 22 years on the force. My mom was a pediatric nurse who worked at Children's Hospital downtown. We were normal. We went to church on Sundays. We had family dinners. My dad coached my soccer team when I was younger. My mom volunteered at my school. From the outside, we looked perfect. But there had been signs. Small things I'd noticed but rationalized away because you don't want to believe your life is built on something rotten. The way mom flinched sometimes when dad walked into a room. The locked file cabinet in his home office that he never let anyone near. The phone calls he'd take in the garage, speaking in low, tense voices. The bruise on mom's wrist last month that she said came from bumping into a cabinet at work. The way our neighbors, the Kowalskis, had moved out suddenly last year, and mom had cried for 3 days but wouldn't tell me why. I told myself it was nothing. That I was imagining things. That every family had private problems and it didn't mean anything was seriously wrong. I started running toward Maple Street. The storage facility was 8 blocks away and I had maybe 7 minutes left. My backpack bounced against my shoulders and I could feel my phone vibrating with incoming texts, but I didn't stop to check them. When I reached the storage facility, I found mom standing next to her car in front of unit 247. She looked terrible. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail and she was wearing the same scrubs she'd left in that morning. Her hands were shaking as she unlocked the storage unit and pulled up the rolling door. Inside were 3 large duffel bags, a file box, and a laptop in a case. "Help me load this into the car," she said without looking at me. Her voice was flat, emotionless, the way people sound when they're barely holding it together. I grabbed one of the duffel bags and it was heavier than I expected. "Mom, what's happening? What did Dad do?" She didn't answer until we'd loaded everything into the trunk and back seat. Then she turned to me and I saw her eyes were red from crying. "Your father is not the man we thought he was. He's done things. Terrible things. And I finally have proof. I've been gathering evidence for 8 months and I was going to turn it over to the FBI this weekend. But someone told him. Someone in his department warned him. And now he's going to try to stop us." She pulled out of the storage facility parking lot and headed toward the highway. I was in the passenger seat trying to process what she'd just said. The FBI, evidence, 8 months. "What kind of things?" I asked. Mom's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Your father has been involved in a protection racket for the past 6 years. He and 3 other officers take money from drug dealers and gang members in exchange for advance warning about raids and investigations. They've been tipping off criminals, destroying evidence, and intimidating witnesses. They've made over $2 million, and they've hurt people who threatened to expose them." My stomach dropped. The Kowalskis. Mr. Kowalski was going to report it, wasn't he? Mom nodded, her jaw clenched. "Your father and his partners broke into their house in the middle of the night and beat him so badly he was hospitalized for 2 weeks. They told him if he ever mentioned what he knew, they'd come back and hurt his children. That's why they moved across the country. They were terrified." I felt sick. Mr. Kowalski had been kind and funny and used to give me candy when I helped him rake leaves, and my father had put him in the hospital and threatened his kids. "How do you know all this?" I asked. Mom glanced at me and then back at the road. "I started noticing things changing about 3 years ago. Your father was coming home with cash he couldn't explain. He was taking calls at strange hours. He was paranoid about people following him. I thought maybe he was having an affair. So I started paying attention. And I noticed that every time there was supposed to be a major drug bust in the news, nothing would happen. Raids that were announced would come up empty. Suspects would disappear before they could be arrested. I started writing it down. Dates, times, patterns. And then I found the ledger." She was driving faster now, checking the rearview mirror constantly. "Your father kept records. Detailed records of every payment, every tip-off, every criminal they protected. I don't know why he kept them. Maybe insurance against his partners. Maybe ego. But I found them in that locked file cabinet. I picked the lock one night when he was working late and I photographed every page. 312 pages documenting 6 years of corruption. Names, dates, amounts, specific cases they sabotaged. Everything. I looked at her and saw someone I didn't recognize. My mom, who'd always been soft and gentle and kind, who'd taught me to be honest and follow rules. And she'd been living a double life for 8 months, gathering evidence against her own husband while pretending everything was normal. "Why didn't you just go to the police?" I asked, and then realized how stupid that sounded. She gave me a sad smile. "Your father is the police, Kira. So are his partners. I couldn't go to his department. They'd cover for him or warn him and we'd end up like the Kowalskis. So I found an FBI agent who specializes in police corruption. Her name is Special Agent Vanessa Wright. I've been working with her for 3 months, giving her copies of everything I found, helping her build a case. We were supposed to meet this Saturday to finalize everything before they moved to arrest your father and the others. But someone in the FBI must have leaked information back to your father's contacts, because 2 hours ago I got a call from Agent Wright warning me that your father knew about my cooperation. She said I needed to get you and leave immediately because he was dangerous and desperate." Mom pulled onto the highway heading north out of the city. "Agent Wright is arranging protective custody for us. We're meeting her at a safe location tonight. Until your father and his partners are arrested, we're not safe. And even after they're arrested, we might not be safe. These men have connections. They have money. They have nothing to lose." I sat there trying to absorb the fact that my entire life had been a lie. That the father who'd taught me to ride a bike and helped me with homework was actually a criminal who'd terrorized families and protected drug dealers. That the man I'd loved and trusted had been living a secret life the entire time I'd known him. My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out and saw 3 missed calls from Dad and 5 text messages. The first one said, "Where are you?" The second said, "Your mother is sick and confused. She needs help. Come home." The third said, "Kira, I'm worried about you. Your mom is having a breakdown. I need you to call me right away so I can make sure you're safe." The fourth said, "If you don't respond in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to report you both as missing." The fifth said, "You're making a terrible mistake. Come home now and we can fix this as a family." I showed the messages to Mom. Her face went pale. "He's trying to manipulate you. Don't respond. Don't tell him anything. Block his number." I blocked Dad's number and felt like I was cutting off a limb. "Mom, where are we going?" "To a motel 2 hours north. Agent Wright is meeting us there at 8 o'clock tonight. She'll have U.S. Marshals with her. They'll protect us until the arrests happen." We drove for 90 minutes in tense silence. Mom kept checking the mirrors. I kept refreshing my phone even though there was nothing new. When we finally pulled into the parking lot of a roadside motel called the Riverside Inn, it was almost 6 o'clock and getting dark. Mom parked in the back row away from the main building. "Stay in the car while I check us in," she said. She came back 10 minutes later with a key card for room 118. The room was small and outdated with 2 double beds, a bathroom that smelled like bleach, and a window overlooking the parking lot. Mom immediately pulled the curtains closed and turned on every light. Then she pulled out her phone and called Agent Wright. I could only hear Mom's side of the conversation, but it was clear something was wrong. "What do you mean delayed? We're here now. We're exposed. We need protection right now." Pause. "How long?" "Vanessa, we can't wait until tomorrow morning. He's looking for us. He knows we're running." Pause. "Fine. Yes. Okay. We'll stay here tonight and wait for your call." Mom hung up and sat down heavily on the bed. "The marshals got delayed by another case. They can't get here until tomorrow morning. Agent Wright says we should be safe here for tonight as long as we keep the door locked and don't tell anyone where we are." I sat down on the other bed. "What if Dad finds us?" Mom pulled out a small handgun from her purse. I'd never seen her with a gun before. "If he finds us, I'll protect you. I'm not letting him take you. I'm not letting him hurt you the way he's hurt other people." The gun looked wrong in her hands. My mom, who cried at sad movies and rescued injured birds, now she was holding a weapon and talking about protecting me from my own father. We ordered pizza delivery and ate it in silence while watching the parking lot through a crack in the curtains. Every set of headlights that pulled in made us both freeze. Every door that slammed made us jump. I couldn't eat more than 2 slices. Mom didn't eat at all. At 9 o'clock, Mom told me to try to sleep. I lay in bed fully clothed with my shoes on and my phone in my hand. Mom sat in the chair by the window watching the parking lot. I must have fallen asleep at some point because I woke up to Mom shaking my shoulder urgently. The room was dark. The clock on the nightstand said 2:18 a.m. "Kira, get up. We need to leave. Right now." Her voice was tight with fear. "What happened?" I sat up fast, my heart already pounding. Mom was shoving our belongings back into the duffel bags. "Your father is here. I saw his car pull into the parking lot 3 minutes ago. He's checking room numbers. We need to go out the back window before he finds our room." I grabbed my backpack and helped Mom with the bags. She unlocked the window and pushed it open. We were on the ground floor, which meant we could just climb out. Mom went first, dropping the bags outside and then climbing through. I followed, landing in the dirt behind the motel. We could hear footsteps and voices from the parking lot. Dad's voice, loud and angry. "I know they're here. Check every room if you have to." There were other voices too, his partners. They'd come together. Mom grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the tree line behind the motel. We ran through the darkness, carrying the heavy bags, branches whipping at our faces, my lungs burning. Behind us I heard a shout. They'd found our room empty. They knew we'd run. We reached Mom's car, which she'd moved to a gas station parking lot a quarter-mile away as a precaution. We threw the bags in the trunk and jumped in. Mom started the engine and we pulled out onto the highway just as headlights appeared behind us. Dad's car. He was following us. Mom drove faster than I'd ever seen her drive. 80 miles per hour on the dark highway. 90. The headlights behind us kept pace. I called 911 with shaking hands. 911, what's your emergency? The dispatcher sounded bored. My mom and I are being chased by my father. He's a police officer and he's trying to hurt us. We need help. There was a pause. What's your father's name, sweetie? Captain Daniel Frost with Metro Police. He's corrupt. He's dangerous. We have evidence and we're trying to get to the FBI, but he's chasing us right now on Highway 52 heading north. Another pause. Honey, I'm showing Captain Frost called in a report 2 hours ago about his wife and daughter being missing and possibly in danger. He's been looking for you to make sure you're safe. If you tell me where you are, I can have him come pick you up. My stomach dropped. No, you don't understand. He's lying. He's trying to stop us from turning over evidence about his crimes. Please, you have to send someone who's not from his department. The dispatcher's voice took on a patronizing tone. Sweetie, I think you're confused. Your father is worried about you. Where are you right now? I hung up. The 911 system was compromised. Dad had already called in a missing persons report that made us look like we were the problem. Mom saw my face and understood. They're not going to help us, are they? Mom pulled off the highway onto a side road and killed the headlights. We drove in the dark using only the moonlight to see. The headlights behind us flew past on the highway. We'd lost them temporarily. Mom pulled into an abandoned warehouse parking lot and turned off the engine. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us breathing hard. We can't outrun them, Mom said finally. They have resources we don't have. They can track my phone, track the car, put out alerts to every law enforcement agency. We need to change our approach. She pulled out her phone and called Agent Wright again. It went to voicemail. She tried 3 more times. No answer. Something's wrong, Mom said. Vanessa always answers. Always. Unless she can't. Fear was creeping into her voice. I looked at the file box in the back seat. Mom, what exactly did you give Agent Wright? Do you still have copies? Mom nodded slowly. I have everything. Photographs of the ledger pages, copies of bank statements showing the cash deposits, recordings of phone calls I captured when your father thought I wasn't home, witness statements from 2 other people who were victimized by the protection racket. It's all on the laptop and backed up to a cloud drive. I pulled out the laptop. Then we don't need Agent Wright. We can release it ourselves. Put it online where everyone can see it. They can't cover it up if it's already public. Mom stared at me. Kira, if we do that, there's no going back. Your father will be arrested. He'll go to prison. Our lives will be destroyed. Everyone we know will find out. Are you sure you can handle that? I thought about Mr. Kowalski beaten and terrified. I thought about all the criminals Dad had protected who'd hurt other people. I thought about Mom's bruised wrist and the fear in her eyes. I thought about the fact that my father had just chased us down a highway in the middle of the night, ready to do God knows what to keep his secrets hidden. I'm sure. He made his choices. Now he has to face them. Mom opened the laptop and pulled up the cloud drive with all the evidence files. She started uploading them to a new email address she created on the spot. Then she wrote an email to every major news outlet in the state. To whom it may concern. Attached is evidence of a 6-year corruption scheme involving 4 officers from Metro Police Department. The evidence includes financial records, witness statements, and documentation of criminal activity including bribery, evidence tampering, witness intimidation, and assault. This information is being released publicly because attempts to report through proper channels have been obstructed. Please investigate and share widely. Signed, Rebecca Frost. She hit send at 3:47 a.m. We waited in that dark parking lot watching the emails go through one by one. 23 news outlets, the FBI's public corruption hotline, the state attorney general's office, the governor's office, the ACLU, every watchdog organization Mom could find. By 4 a.m., the evidence was out, unleashed, irreversible. Mom's phone started ringing. Agent Wright. Mom answered on speaker. Rebecca, what the hell did you just do? Agent Wright sounded furious. I sent the evidence to the media. You weren't answering and we were out of options. It's done. There was a long silence. Then Agent Wright's voice came back softer. Rebecca, I'm sorry. I was in a meeting with my supervisors all night. They were trying to decide how to proceed with the case because of political pressure from above. Someone high up is trying to bury this investigation. I was fighting for you, and now you've just made it impossible for them to bury anything. She almost sounded relieved. Where are you right now? Mom gave our location. Stay there. I'm sending state police to your location right now with orders to protect you. They're not local. They're not compromised. And I'm personally coming to meet you within the hour. Rebecca, you just dropped a nuclear bomb on the Metro Police Department. This is going to get very loud very fast. Are you prepared for that? Mom looked at me. I nodded. We're prepared, Mom said. The state police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 patrol cars with 4 officers. They created a perimeter around our car and one of them, a woman named Sergeant Linda Kowalski, came to Mom's window. Mrs. Frost? I'm here to make sure you and your daughter get to safety. Agent Wright briefed me on the situation. We're going to escort you to a secure location. I stared at the name tag. Kowalski? Are you related to the family that used to live next door to us? Sergeant Kowalski's expression hardened. That was my brother and his family. I know exactly what your father did to them. That's why I volunteered for this detail. I'm going to make sure he answers for everything. We were escorted to a state police barracks an hour away where Agent Wright met us. She was a black woman in her mid-40s with sharp eyes and an air of authority that made me feel safer immediately. She shook both our hands. Mrs. Frost, Kira, I want you to know that what you did tonight took incredible courage. The evidence you released is already causing shockwaves. 3 major news outlets have picked it up. The Metro Police Department is in emergency lockdown. The State Attorney General has announced a special investigation. Your father and his 3 partners are being located for arrest as we speak. She pulled out a tablet and showed us news headlines already appearing online. Corruption scandal rocks Metro Police. Evidence released of multi-million-dollar protection racket. Captain Daniel Frost and 3 officers sought for arrest. FBI confirms investigation into police corruption claims. I felt numb looking at the headlines. This was real. This was actually happening. Agent Wright continued. I'm not going to lie to you. The next few months are going to be very difficult. You'll be questioned extensively. You'll likely have to testify. The defense attorneys will try to discredit you. The media will dig into your lives. Some people will call you heroes. Others will call you traitors. You'll need protection because your father's associates might retaliate. Are you both ready for all of that? Mom squeezed my hand. We're ready. We just want the truth to come out. Over the next 6 hours, we gave detailed statements to Agent Wright and 2 other FBI agents. They recorded everything. They photographed the evidence files. They took the laptop into custody. They asked hundreds of questions about what we'd seen, what we'd heard, what we knew. Kira was incredible during her statement, Agent Wright told Mom afterward. She remembered details I wouldn't expect from an adult, much less a 15-year-old. She's going to be a powerful witness. By noon, the news was everywhere. Every channel was covering the story. Reporters were camped outside the Metro Police Department headquarters. The mayor was holding a press conference. The police union was issuing statements. And my father and his 3 partners had been arrested. Agent Wright showed us the footage. Dad being led out of a house in handcuffs, his face red with rage. The other 3 officers being arrested at their homes, all of them charged with racketeering, bribery, evidence tampering, witness intimidation, and assault. The bail hearing was set for the next day. Agent Wright explained that because of the severity of the charges and the flight risk, the prosecution would be arguing for no bail. She was right. All 4 men were denied bail and remanded to federal custody pending trial. The trial was set for 4 months later. In the meantime, Mom and I lived in protective custody in a secure apartment monitored by U.S. Marshals. I couldn't go to school, couldn't see my friends, couldn't live any part of my normal life. Everything was depositions and meetings with prosecutors and therapy sessions to deal with the trauma. Dr. Nina Volkov was the therapist assigned to us. She specialized in families affected by violence and betrayal. She helped Mom process the guilt she felt for not leaving sooner. She helped me understand that my father's choices weren't my fault, that I could still love the man I thought he was while hating what he'd actually done. The media attention was relentless. Every detail of our lives was picked apart. People found my social media accounts and posted hateful comments. Some praised us as heroes who'd exposed corruption. Others called us traitors who'd destroyed good men's lives over lies. Mom was fired from her nursing job because the hospital didn't want the negative attention. I read articles about myself written by strangers who claimed to know what I was thinking and feeling. Some painted me as a brave whistleblower. Others suggested I was a confused child manipulated by my mother. The truth was, I was just a 15-year-old girl who'd found out her father was a monster and tried to stop him from hurting anyone else. The trial began on a freezing January morning. The courthouse was surrounded by protesters, some supporting the police, some demanding justice. We were escorted in through a back entrance by armed marshals. The courtroom was packed with journalists, police officers, victims' families, and curious onlookers. I sat in the front row with Mom while the prosecution laid out their case. Assistant U.S. Attorney Raymond Volker was the lead prosecutor, a man in his 50s who'd spent his career taking down corrupt officials. He was methodical and thorough. He started with the financial evidence showing the 4 officers had deposited over $2.1 million in cash into various accounts over 6 years. He showed the ledger pages Mom had photographed, documenting every payment from criminals in exchange for protection. He brought in witnesses, drug dealers who'd paid the protection fees and testified about what they'd received in return. Families who'd been victimized when cases against criminals mysteriously fell apart. The Kowalskis, who testified about the night they were attacked and threatened. He played recordings Mom had captured of Dad and his partners discussing cases they were sabotaging. The evidence was overwhelming. The defense attorneys tried to claim the ledger was fabricated, that the recordings were taken out of context, that the witnesses were criminals whose testimony couldn't be trusted. But the sheer volume of evidence from multiple independent sources made their arguments fall apart. When it was my turn to testify, I was terrified. I had to sit on the witness stand and look at my father sitting at the defense table staring at me with cold rage in his eyes. The prosecutor asked me questions about my home life, about things I'd noticed, about conversations I'd overheard, about the night we'd run. I answered every question truthfully. My voice shook, but I didn't cry. I refused to let Dad see me cry. The defense attorney for Dad tried to discredit me during cross-examination. Isn't it true you were angry at your father for being strict with you? No. Isn't it true your mother convinced you to lie about him because she wanted a divorce? No, I'm telling the truth. Isn't it true you're just a confused teenager who doesn't understand what you saw? I looked directly at Dad when I answered. I understand perfectly. My father is a criminal who hurt innocent people and tried to stop me and my mom from exposing him. I know exactly what I saw. The defense attorney had no response to that. When Mom testified, she was calm and precise. She walked through her 8 months of investigation, explained how she'd discovered the ledger, described the threats she'd overheard, detailed the night we'd fled. When the defense tried to suggest she was a vindictive wife making up stories, she pulled out a small notebook she'd kept hidden during the entire marriage. Pages and pages of documented incidents, dates when Dad came home with unexplained cash, times when he'd taken suspicious phone calls, conversations she'd overheard, cases she'd tracked in the news that mysteriously fell apart. She'd been documenting everything for 3 years before she'd even found the ledger. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous on all counts. Guilty. All 4 officers convicted on every charge. Dad's face was blank when the verdict was read. His partners looked devastated, but I felt nothing but relief. The sentencing hearing was 2 months later. Assistant U.S. Attorney Volker argued for maximum sentences. These were officers who'd betrayed their oaths, corrupted the justice system, and terrorized innocent people. Judge Marilyn Foster agreed. She sentenced each of the 4 men to 18 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for at least 12 years. You gentlemen took an oath to serve and protect, Judge Foster said during sentencing. Instead, you served only yourselves and protected criminals who preyed on the community you were supposed to defend. You betrayed the badge, betrayed the public trust, and terrorized anyone who threatened to expose you. The damage you've done to legitimate law enforcement officers who serve honorably is incalculable. You've earned every day of the sentence I'm imposing. Dad was led out of the courtroom in shackles. He looked at me once as he passed. I expected to see rage or hatred. Instead, I saw something worse. Empty acceptance. Like he'd always known this day would come. After the sentencing, Agent Wright took us to lunch at a quiet restaurant away from reporters. You did it, she said to both of us. You took down a corrupt network and prevented them from hurting anyone else. I know it came at a terrible cost, but you should be proud. Mom asked the question I'd been wondering. What happens to us now? Agent Wright explained that the witness security program could relocate us if we wanted. New identities, new city, new lives, or we could stay and try to rebuild here. The choice was ours. Mom and I talked about it for weeks. Ultimately, we decided to stay. To keep our names. To refuse to hide from what we'd done. We moved to a different neighborhood. Mom got a new nursing job at a different hospital. I transferred to a new school where nobody knew my story. It wasn't easy. Some people recognized us and had opinions, but most people just left us alone. I made new friends who knew nothing about my past. I joined the debate team and found I was good at arguing and presenting evidence. Dr. Volkov said that made sense given what I'd been through. I'd learned to fight for truth even when it was terrifying. A year after the trial, I wrote a victim impact statement that was included in a report about police corruption. I wrote about what it was like to discover your father is not who you thought, about the betrayal and the fear and the courage it took to expose him, about the cost of truth. The report was published by a criminal justice reform organization and was used to push for stronger oversight of law enforcement. My words helped change policy. That felt like something. 2 years after everything started, Mom and I went to visit the Kowalskis at their new home across the country. Mr. Kowalski still had some health issues from the beating Dad gave him, but he was alive. His kids were safe. His family had rebuilt. He hugged Mom for a long time when we arrived. Thank you, he said. Thank you for having the courage we didn't have. Thank you for stopping them. We stayed for a weekend. It was healing for all of us. I'm 18 now. I'm starting college in the fall with a full scholarship to study criminal justice. I want to work in police accountability and oversight. I want to make sure what happened to my family and the Kowalskis and all the other victims doesn't happen to anyone else. I still think about Dad sometimes, about the man I thought he was versus the man he actually was. Dr. Volkov says it's okay to grieve the father I lost even though that father never really existed, that the love I felt was real even if he wasn't worthy of it. Mom is doing better too. She's dating someone new, a teacher who's kind and honest and everything Dad pretended to be. She smiles more now. The fear has faded from her eyes. We talk sometimes about that night when she texted me we had 10 minutes, about how everything changed in that moment, about how we could have ignored it and gone home and pretended everything was fine. But we didn't. We ran. We fought. We exposed the truth even though it cost us everything we thought we had. Was it worth it? People ask me that sometimes. Was it worth losing your father? your home, your normal life? And I always give the same answer. Yes, because the truth matters more than comfort. Justice matters more than keeping secrets. And some people need to be stopped no matter what it costs. My father and his partners are in federal prison where they belong. The protection racket is destroyed. The criminals they protected have been arrested. The system they corrupted is being reformed. And I'm still here, stronger than they thought, braver than I knew I could be. I was walking home from school when my mom texted we had 10 minutes before they found us. That was the day my life fell apart. But it was also the day I learned who I really was. A survivor. A fighter. Someone who chooses truth over lies even when the truth destroys everything. My father wanted to silence us. He wanted to keep his secrets buried and his crimes hidden. He failed. We won. And every day he spends in prison is proof that power and badges and connections mean nothing when someone is brave enough to speak the truth. The cost was high, but the alternative was higher. Because silence protects abusers. And I refuse to be silent. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.